Los Angeles shimmered under the golden glow of the late afternoon sun. At the heart of the city, the luxurious Rosewood Hotel was packed with magnates, investors, and journalists hunting for the next big headline. The event of the year had gathered some of the most powerful figures in the business world, and Emily Carter was there to cover every detail. Dressed in a sleek black blazer, with her trusty notepad in hand, she scanned the room with sharp, investigative eyes. Her job was to spot the stories worth telling. But at that moment, nothing seemed particularly interesting until she saw him. He was at the bar, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit. His chiseled jawline, neatly trimmed beard, and dark, piercing eyes gave him an air of mystery and power. Amir Al-Fayed. The name echoed in Emily's mind. She had heard of him before. Heir to a Middle Eastern billionaire empire, Amir was known for avoiding the spotlight. Unlike other heirs to massive fortunes, he wasn't caught up in scandals. He was caught up in secrecy. And for a journalist like Emily, that was intriguing. Determined, she picked up her drink and walked toward the bar. "You don't seem to enjoy crowds." Her tone was casual, her smile confident. Amir lifted his gaze to meet hers, observing her for a brief moment before responding. "Not everyone here is interested in business. Some just want to be seen." His cryptic response made Emily smile. "And you? Are you here for business or to be seen?" Amir smirked slightly and took a sip of his whiskey. "Maybe a little of both, but I think I just found a better reason to stay." There was something about the way he looked at her, an intense pull that made her stomach flip. Emily wasn't easily impressed, but there was something about him, a quiet magnetism that drew her in. "Emily Carter, journalist," she extended her hand. "Amir Al-Fayed, no official title." He took her hand, his touch warm and firm. She let out a soft laugh. "No title, but a billionaire fortune." "And you?" Amir tilted his head slightly, studying her. "Are you here as a journalist or as someone who wants to be seen?" Emily lifted her glass, playing along. "Maybe a little of both." Amir chuckled, and in that moment, something shifted between them. A spark. She didn't know it yet, but that chance encounter was about to change her life forever. The evening at the Rosewood Hotel stretched into the night, with Emily and Amir lost in conversation. There was something effortless about their connection, an unspoken understanding that made time slip away unnoticed. By the time they realized the gala was ending, Amir suggested something unexpected. "Let's get out of here." Emily hesitated for a brief second. She wasn't the type to follow a stranger, no matter how charming he was. But Amir wasn't just anyone. There was an undeniable pull between them, something thrilling and unpredictable. So she said yes. They ended up in a quiet rooftop lounge overlooking the glittering Los Angeles skyline. Away from the flashing cameras and business deals, Amir seemed different, more relaxed. "You're not what I expected," Emily admitted, sipping her wine. "And what did you expect? An untouchable billionaire, cold, distant," Amir chuckled. "And now?" She studied him for a moment. Still untouchable, but not as cold. A silence settled between them, the kind that wasn't uncomfortable, but charged. When Amir finally spoke, his voice was softer. "I don't let many people in." Emily raised an eyebrow. "Why me?" He exhaled, as if weighing his words. "Because you don't look at me like everyone else does." The moment hung between them, and before Emily could respond, Amir leaned in. His lips brushed against hers, tentative at first, as if giving her a chance to pull away. She didn't. The kiss deepened, slow and deliberate, carrying an intensity neither of them expected. When they finally pulled apart, Emily's heart was racing. She barely knew this man, and yet it felt like she had known him forever. Over the next few days, they were inseparable. Amir took her to hidden spots in the city, places he said reminded him of home. They had dinner on a private yacht, drove down the California coastline, and talked for hours about everything, except his family. Emily noticed that whenever she tried to bring up his background, Amir would expertly redirect the conversation. It wasn't just avoidance, it was deliberate, but she didn't push, not yet. Because despite the mystery, despite the unanswered questions, she was falling for him, fast. Then, one evening, everything changed. They were at Amir's penthouse, the city lights flickering through the glass windows, when he suddenly took her hand. His expression was unreadable, but there was a fire in his eyes. "Marry me." Emily froze. "What? Marry me?" His grip tightened, his voice steady. "Tonight." A million thoughts raced through her mind. They had only known each other for a week. It was insane, completely irrational, and yet she looked into his eyes and felt something terrifyingly real. Yes. She didn't know why she said it. Maybe it was the adrenaline. Maybe it was the way he made her feel, like nothing else in the world mattered. Or maybe it was fate. But in less than 24 hours, she would realize that fate had a cruel sense of humor. Less than a week after Amir's proposal, Emily found herself standing in front of an opulent mirror in a private suite at the Beverly Hills Hotel. The silk wedding gown hugged her figure perfectly, and the diamond earrings Amir had given her sparkled under the soft glow of the chandelier. Everything felt surreal. Just days ago, she was an investigative journalist chasing stories, and now she was about to marry one of the most elusive billionaires in the world. A soft knock at the door broke her thoughts. "Come in." Her best friend, Claire, stepped inside, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Emily, are you sure about this?" Claire whispered urgently. Emily turned to her, smoothing the fabric of her dress. "I know it's fast, but it feels right." Claire sighed. "I just don't want you to wake up one day and realize you married a stranger." Emily gave her a small smile. "I know who he is, and I trust him." But even as she said the words, a tiny voice in her head whispered, "Do you really?" The wedding was nothing short of a fairy tale. The venue, a private estate in the Hollywood Hills, was decorated with thousands of white roses and golden lights. High-profile guests, including CEOs, royalty, and celebrities, filled the seats. Everything about the event screamed power. As Emily walked down the aisle, her eyes met Amir's. He looked breathtaking in his tailored black tuxedo, his expression unreadable but intense. When she finally reached him, he took her hands, his grip firm and warm. The vows were simple yet deeply personal. "I never believed in fate," Amir said, his voice steady, "until I met you." Emily felt a lump in her throat. With you, I don't just feel loved, I feel seen." As the officiant declared them husband and wife, Amir leaned in and kissed her, the crowd erupting in applause. The moment should have been perfect. But as Emily pulled back, she caught something out of the corner of her eye. A man in a dark suit, standing near the edge of the crowd, watching her. His expression was unreadable, but his presence sent a chill down her spine. And just like that, the first crack in her perfect fairy tale appeared. The wedding reception stretched late into the night, filled with champagne toasts, laughter and music. But as the last guests departed and the staff cleared the extravagant ballroom, an eerie silence settled over the mansion. Emily was exhausted, but exhilarated. Lying in the massive bed of their honeymoon suite, she glanced at Amir, who stood by the window, gazing out into the night. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. Amir turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Nothing important, just a lot on my mind." Something about his tone unsettled her, but before she could press further, he walked over, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Sleep, Habibti, you'll need your rest." Emily woke up to an empty bed. The warm spot where Amir had been was now cold. She glanced at the clock, 6:12 a.m. Pulling on a silk robe, she wandered through the grand hallway of the mansion. The house was eerily quiet, no sign of Amir. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. "Amir, urgent business, had to leave early. See you soon, my love." She sighed. It was their first morning as husband and wife, and he was already gone. Determined not to let it bother her, Emily made her way downstairs for breakfast. As she sipped her coffee, she mindlessly turned on the TV, and then she froze. Breaking news: businessman linked to Al-Fayed family found dead in mysterious circumstances. Emily's heart pounded as a photo appeared on the screen. The man in the image looked familiar. Then it hit her. He was the same man she had seen at her wedding, the one watching her from the shadows. Her hands trembled as she reached for her phone. She needed to talk to Amir. The call rang once, twice. Then the line went dead. And that's when she felt it, that creeping sensation deep in her gut. Something was very wrong. Emily's fingers hovered over her phone screen, debating whether to call Amir again. But something stopped her. The sinking feeling that she might not like the answer. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the door. She turned, her pulse quickening. Slowly, she walked over and opened it. No one was there, just an envelope lying on the floor. Frowning, she picked it up and carefully opened it. Inside were 3 photographs, all of Amir. In one, he was shaking hands with a man in a dark alley. In another, he was sitting across from the same man at an upscale restaurant, his expression serious. And in the last one, he was stepping into a black car, his face partially obscured by shadows. Beneath the photos, there was a single message written in sharp black ink: "Leave now while you still can." A cold chill ran down Emily's spine. Her first instinct was to dismiss it as some kind of mistake, but deep down she knew better. Her journalistic instincts kicked in. If there was one thing she had learned in her career, it was that secrets had a way of surfacing, and Amir had secrets, big ones. She needed answers, and she was going to get them, no matter what it took. Emily sat at the edge of the massive bed, the photographs spread out before her. The warning echoed in her mind: "Leave now, while you still can." But leaving wasn't an option, not without answers. Grabbing her laptop, she began searching everything she could about Amir's family business. She had never questioned his wealth before. She knew he was involved in global investments, but beyond that, details were scarce. Until now, as she dug deeper, patterns began to emerge. Offshore accounts, silent partnerships, companies that seemed to exist only on paper. The more she searched, the more uneasy she became. Then she found something that made her blood run cold, a news article from 5 years ago. The headline read, "Business tycoon mysteriously disappears after exposing Al-Fayed family dealings." Her stomach twisted as she clicked on it. The article detailed how a former associate of Amir's father had vanished after attempting to expose financial crimes within the family's empire. His body was never found. Emily's breath came in short gasps. Could Amir be involved in something dangerous, or worse? Could he be lying to her about who he really was? Just as she was about to close her laptop, she heard footsteps outside the room. Her heart pounded. Then, a soft knock at the door. She hesitated, then slowly stood up. As Emily opened the door, it was Amir. She exhaled, trying to steady herself. Taking one last glance at the disturbing headlines on her screen, she shut the laptop and walked toward the door. But in that moment, she realized something terrifying. She was no longer sure if she could trust the man she had just married. Emily took a deep breath before opening the door. Amir stood there, his dark eyes scanning her face. He looked exhausted, his tie loosened, his jaw tight. "You've been avoiding my calls." His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. "I needed time to think." Emily stepped aside, letting him in. Amir walked past her, running a hand through his hair. Think about what? She hesitated. She wanted to confront him about what she had found, but if he was hiding something, would he tell her the truth? Instead, she chose her words carefully. "The man at our wedding, the one who was found dead. Who was he?" Amir's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "No one important." A lie. Emily crossed her arms. "Then why was he watching me?" Silence. Then Amir sighed, walking toward her. "Emily, there are things about my family that are complicated. I didn't want to involve you. I'm already involved, Amir." She held up the photographs. "Someone left these at our door, and they came with a warning." Amir's face darkened. He took the pictures from her, scanning them quickly before muttering something under his breath in Arabic. "Tell me the truth," Emily demanded. "What are you hiding?" Instead of answering, Amir grabbed his phone and made a call. "Tariq, Titan Security. Someone's been watching us." Emily's pulse quickened. "Security? Who do you think sent these?" Amir met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "Someone who wants to scare you away." "And should I be scared?" He stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "That depends. Are you going to stay?" Emily knew this was the moment to walk away, but something told her the real danger hadn't even started yet. Emily barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, the photographs and the news article replayed in her mind. Something was very wrong, and Amir wasn't telling her everything. By morning, she had made up her mind. If Amir wouldn't give her the truth, she would find it herself. Emily left the mansion under the pretense of visiting Claire, but instead, she took a cab downtown. She had spent the night digging through old contacts, and one name kept coming up: Daniel Reese, an investigative journalist who had once exposed corruption in the Middle East. If anyone knew what was happening behind the scenes, it was him. They met at a quiet cafe, far from the usual high-profile spots. Daniel was in his late 40s, with tired eyes that had seen too much. "Emily Carter," he said, shaking his head. "I never thought I'd see your name tied to the Al-Fayed family." Emily leaned in. "What do you know?" Daniel exhaled, glancing around before pulling out a folder. "Enough to tell you that your husband is in the middle of something dangerous. And now, so are you." He slid the folder across the table. Emily's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were bank statements, classified reports, and confidential emails linking Amir's family to secret offshore deals, some of them with high-ranking government officials and even criminal networks. Emily's stomach twisted. "This can't be real." Daniel gave her a sad smile. "It's very real. And if you think Amir doesn't know about it, you're lying to yourself." Emily shut the folder, her heart pounding. "Why would someone warn me? Why not just make me disappear?" Daniel's expression turned grim. "Maybe they need you for something, or maybe they're waiting to see if you're a threat." A chill ran down her spine. "Emily," Daniel said, lowering his voice, "you need to leave before it's too late." She wanted to believe he was wrong, that Amir wasn't part of this, but deep down she knew the truth, and it terrified her. Emily's hands shook as she clutched the folder. The evidence in front of her was undeniable. Amir's family was entangled in something dangerous, but the question that haunted her was even worse. Was Amir protecting her, or was he using her? She had to get out. Emily left the cafe, her heart racing. She dialed Claire's number. "I need your help." No questions. Claire, sensing the urgency, didn't hesitate. "Come to my apartment, now." Emily hailed a cab, constantly checking the rearview mirror. Were Amir's men watching her? Had he already figured out she had met Daniel? When she arrived at Claire's apartment, she locked the door behind her and exhaled. "Emily, what the hell is going on?" Claire asked. Emily hesitated, then handed over the folder. As Claire flipped through the documents, her face paled. "Jesus, Emily, this is bad." Emily grabbed her suitcase. "I need to disappear, just for a few days, long enough to figure out what's real and what's a lie." Claire nodded. "I'll book you a flight under my name. Packlight. Where will you go?" "New York," Emily said. "No one will expect me to go back." But just as Claire started booking the ticket, Emily's phone buzzed. It was Amir. Her stomach clenched. She let it ring. Then another message came through. "Amir, Emily, please come home. We need to talk." Then a second message. "Amir, if you run, they'll find you. and I won't be able to stop them. Emily's breath caught. They, not him. If Amir wasn't the one after her, then who was? And more importantly, was he telling the truth? She had two choices: run and risk being hunted, or go back and find out the full truth. Her hands trembled over her suitcase. Time was running out. Emily sat frozen, staring at Amir's last message. If you run, they'll find you, and I won't be able to stop them. Her instincts screamed at her to keep running. But something about Amir's words made her pause. Was he warning her or threatening her? Claire touched her arm. Emily, you can't go back. It's too dangerous. Emily's mind raced. If she disappeared now, she'd never get the answers she needed. Taking a shaky breath, she made her decision. I have to see him, she whispered. Claire's eyes widened. Are you insane? Emily shook her head. If I don't do this, I'll never know the truth. That night, Emily returned to the mansion. As she stepped inside, the air felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. Amir was waiting for her in the dimly lit living room, his hands clasped in front of him. His jaw was tight, his expression unreadable. You shouldn't have run, he said. Emily squared her shoulders. And you shouldn't have lied. She threw the folder onto the table between them. Tell me the truth, Amir. No more half answers. A long silence stretched between them. Then, finally, Amir exhaled. My family built its fortune on more than just business, Emily. There are alliances, some legal, some not. Emily's stomach twisted. And you, are you part of it? His eyes met hers, dark and conflicted. I've spent my life trying to escape it, but no one truly leaves. Her heart pounded. Was our marriage part of this? Did you marry me because of them? Amir stepped closer, his voice raw. No, I married you because I love you. Emily wanted to believe him, but then a sound, a door creaking open. She turned just in time to see Tariq, Amir's right-hand man, step into the room. He wasn't alone. Two armed men flanked him. I told you she would be a problem, Tariq said coldly. Emily's breath hitched. Amir's fists clenched. Stand down, Tariq. But Tariq only smirked. I'm afraid it's too late for that. And in that moment, Emily knew. The real betrayal hadn't come from Amir. It had come from someone far worse. Emily's pulse pounded as she stared at the armed men flanking Tariq. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but there was nowhere to go. Tariq took a slow step forward, his smirk unwavering. You should have stayed out of this, Emily. Amir positioned himself in front of her, his body tense. Tariq, don't do this. Tariq let out a dry laugh. You're still naive, Amir. Do you really think they'll let you walk away? Let her walk away. Emily felt cold terror settle in her bones. Who are they? Tariq tilted his head. The ones who truly run things, the ones who made your father a king, and the ones who will bury you both if you keep digging. Amir's hand clenched into a fist. I should have seen this coming. Tariq's smirk widened. But you didn't, and now I have orders to clean up your mess. One of the armed men reached inside his jacket. Emily's breath caught. Was this it? Then, a single gunshot. Tariq's smirk vanished. His body jerked, his eyes wide with shock. A dark stain spread across his chest. Behind him, Amir's most trusted bodyguard, Rafiq, stood with a smoking gun. You were the real traitor, Tariq. Rafiq's voice was cold. Tariq staggered before collapsing to the floor. The other men hesitated just long enough for Amir to act. In a flash, Amir grabbed Emily's hand. Run! They bolted through the hallway as shouts and more gunfire erupted behind them. They raced outside, where a black SUV was already waiting. Rafiq was behind the wheel. Get in, he yelled. Emily barely had time to process as Amir shoved her inside, jumping in after her. Tires screeched as they sped away from the mansion. Her breath came in short, panicked gasps. What just happened? Amir exhaled, his grip tight around her hand. War! Emily's stomach dropped. What do you mean? He turned to her, his eyes burning with intensity. They won't stop until we're dead. And just like that, The life Emily once knew was gone. The SUV raced through the dark streets of Los Angeles, the city lights blurring past. Emily's heart pounded as she tried to process everything. Tariq had betrayed them. Amir's family was more dangerous than she ever imagined, and now they were running for their lives. Rafiq drove with ruthless precision, taking sharp turns to lose any potential pursuers. "Where are we going?" Emily asked, her voice barely steady. Amir turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Somewhere safe," she swallowed hard. "And then what? We just keep running forever?" Amir exhaled. "No. I have one last move to make." They arrived at a private airstrip. A jet was already fueled and waiting. Rafiq handed Amir a small flash drive. "Everything is here. Bank records, offshore accounts, every deal Tariq was part of." Emily frowned. "What is this?" Amir met her gaze. "The only way to end this," he explained. Tariq wasn't acting alone. He was working for members of Amir's own family who wanted to remove him. They saw Emily as a liability, a threat to their secrecy. But now, Amir had proof of their illegal dealings. "If I release this," Amir said, "they'll be exposed. They'll lose everything." Emily hesitated. "And what happens to you?" Amir's jaw tightened. "I'll be a dead man." Her heart clenched. "Then we can't do this. We don't have a choice, Habibti." His voice was gentle but firm. Emily's mind raced. If they exposed the truth, Amir's enemies would come after him. But if they did nothing, they would never be free. Finally, she nodded. "Then we do it together." Amir looked at her, something unreadable in his eyes. "You'd stay with me, even after everything?" Emily took his hand. "I didn't marry your family, Amir. I married you." A flicker of emotion passed through him. Then, without hesitation, he plugged the flash drive into his laptop and hit send. Within seconds, confidential files were uploaded to multiple news agencies, law enforcement, and international watchdogs. It was over. And just as the jet's engines roared to life, Amir turned to Emily and whispered, "Now we disappear." Hand in hand, they boarded the plane, leaving behind the life they once knew and stepping into the unknown together.